Okay, so let's learn the longer way of graphing this. So in a coast curve, you need the 5 key points. Ready? And you should always know them anyway. So the 5 key points are based on the unit circle, 0, 1, pi over 2, 0, pi, minus 1, 3 pi over 2, 0, and then the final one back to the beginning, 2 pi 1. These are based on the x coordinates around the unit circle, which represent the coast value. You should always know that, those 5 points. You should also know the key 5 points of a sine curve, also based on the y value of the unit circle. At 0 degrees, the y value is 0. At pi over 2, the y value is 1. At pi, the y value is 0. 3 pi over 2, the y value is minus 1. And 2 pi is 0. Once you have that, they repeat every period. Everything repeats every period. So here we have the 5 key points, and all we have to do is figure out which are y transformations and which are x. Y transformations are always outside the bracket, so that's a y, and that's a y. Keep in mind that x lies, so whatever you see there, you don't multiply x by that, you multiply it by the inverse. Or if you want, you divide it by this item and multiply it by this item. Here it's not moving to the left, it's moving to the right, so keep that in mind. So that means the y transformations, which I like to do first because it's easier. I have to multiply, I have a vertical stretch by a factor of 3, and the negative means it's a reflection in the x-axis. So that means I have to multiply all my y values. This is called the mapping. To multiply all my y values by minus 3, and then I have to add 1 to them. If I look closely, these are the x transformations here and here. If I want to make my life simple, I'm going to just multiply by the reciprocal. So how do I map it? Here's the map. There we go. I'm going to multiply all my x values by 2 over pi. And then I'm going to add 2 to them. So that's the inverse. If you want to do it differently, I multiply all my x values by 2 and divide by pi and then add 2. That's what I would be doing by multiplying by the inverse. Multiply by, so x values get multiplied by the inverse, 2 over pi, and then add 2. So there's my mapping function. I do that to all my parent x, y values, which is why you should know them. I'm just going to clear up my graph here. There we go. So I come over here, and I take my mapping functions. I'm going to start with all my x values. I have to divide them by pi, so the word pi essentially is going to disappear out of all of them, just to make your life a little easier. And then I have to multiply it by 2, and then add 2. So once the pi is gone, I multiply it by 2. Well, this 2 is at the bottom. Pi over 2. When I divided it by pi and multiplied by 2, it disappeared. But then I have to add 2. So that point becomes 2, 0. Oh, I don't have the 0 yet. Hang on. This point here, because it's 0, I can ignore the multiplication and just add 2. So 2, something. So far, I have, oh, this can't be right over here. So this becomes 1 plus 2. So far I have 1 as an x value, or 2 as an x value here. And they should go up by 1 because the period, as I said before, is 4 now. And then this next one, the pi is divided by pi. It's the 1's multiplied by 2, and then I add 2 to it. That's 4. Then this next one, I divide by pi, gets rid of pi. I divide by 2, I get 3 over 2. I add 2. Wait. I multiply by 2, gets rid of the 2 in the bottom. I divide by pi, gets rid of the pi at the top. I add 2 to that 3, I get 5. They should each go up by 1. This one, I divide by pi, I get that. I multiply by 2, I get 4. I add 2, I get 6. There, that's all the y. Now all the that's all the x's. Now all the y's, I have to multiply by minus 3 and add 1. So that makes that minus 2. That makes that 1. That makes this 4 plus 1, 5. That makes this one 0, so just add 1, and then this goes 1 times minus 3 and add 1 minus 2 again. Notice that indirectly I get the max and the min here. There's the max and there's the min, but also I get the axis. Always realize that this thing here, over here, is the axis, and this thing over here is the amplitude, but obviously we're starting up down. It's easier if I just plot those points. 2 comma minus 1. 2 comma minus 1 is there. Sorry, it was 2 comma minus 2. There. 3 comma 1. There. That's the axis. 4 comma 5. That's the peak. 5. So I accidentally didn't include 5 on here. Doesn't matter. Up there about. Oh, I could have used individual squares. Maybe I should. So 2 comma minus 2 is there. 3 comma 1 is there. 4 comma 5 is there. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comma 1 is there, and then it comes back down to there. So this is a coast curve. But your question says at least 2 periods. Let's just make this a little smaller. Something like that. Not quite right. Try again. And there has to be a little curve at the bottom, so I should have not quite done that, but whatever. Rough idea. To repeat at every point, I just have to go 1 period over. So that's 1 period over, and then 1 period over. So 1 period over. So 1 period over. And 1 period over. Because these things always repeat every period. There's my next curve. Then you should label all your points. So again, how do I figure out the new points? Well, the y, and forget, I know I haven't curved the bottom very well here. Just giving you a rough idea. Like that. Now, if you want to figure out the actual point values, all you have to do is take your 5 transformed things, and you add a period to the x. Well, the next point becomes this. And since they all go up by 1, it's quite clear that you can go on forever. You just keep adding 1 period to all these x values right here, or you could subtract periods. You could go the other way. You know, it's just going to repeat forever. Woo! And then, but then you should label these for full marks. You should also now, remember I said this is the axis, always. So you should put the axis in there. And it shows that that thing's bouncing up and down around that axis. If you were asked to max, it's the distance from the amplitude, 3, to that. So 3 plus, without, you don't need the negative. That is going, that's the amplitude rather. If you want the max, it's going to go up as high as, oh, I should be as high as 4, not 5. So I might have made an error in there. Multiply minus 3 and add 1, that's minus 3 and minus 2. 0 plus 1 is 1. Minus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So the max is 5. Oh, am I adding 1? Yeah, there we go. So if you see the amplitude here, it's 3 from the axis. So if I take 1 plus 3, the max I'm reaching is 4. Yeah, so I did do it right. There's 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have gone up higher. That point right here, minus 1 times minus 3. Oh, it's 3. Sorry. Yeah, that should be 4. There we go. So there's a good example of catching an error, because the max should only be 3 plus the thing. The max point here should be 4. And fortunately, I did draw it at 4. So that means that's why you should label it. You should say this is 4 comma. What's throwing me off is this grid is every 4 instead of every 5. So 4 comma 4 is the max there. Yeah, 4 comma 4. So always label them. Always put your axis in, and then you can see this graph. Now we could find any point. If they ask me what's the point at, so there's 4, 8, 12, 12, 16, 20. If they ask me for the point here, Where would it lie? I just have to go and see. 4, 4, 4. It's going to be a max. So that's going to be 20, comma, 4. So you can figure out all future points from your graph as well. Oh, here's some basic formulas I want to leave you with before I do it. Sometimes they only give you the drawing or show you the drawing instead of the formula. Here's the formula I think I told you before. I gave you one. Max point is axis plus the absolute value of the amplitude. In other words, 3 in this case. Min is axis minus the amplitude, which means you can rearrange this. Amplitude is equal to max minus axis, or amplitude is equal to axis minus min. So those are key ways to do this. You can also find the axis from this. Max plus min divided by 2. In this case, our max is 4. Our min is minus 2. Plus minus 2 becomes 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. That's our amplitude, in case you don't have the equation. And then also to figure out, there's another formula to figure out something that's like max minus, it's like max minus min. Let's figure out what divided by 2. So that gives you 4 minus minus 2, which gives you 6. Divided by 2, 3. It gives you amplitude. So max minus min divided by 2 will give you your amplitude. Those are key things to memorize when you're transforming this. Once you have that down, you can transform anything.